Hello, my most amazing scholars of truth, goodness, and beauty. Hello, my most amazing teacher of truth, goodness, and beauty. How are you today? Hello, 1G scholars. I am excited to show you this work of art. I always get inspired when I look at these, and this one is extra inspiring because it is from ancient Egypt, and we are going to continue working on our artwork of ancient Egypt. And the designs in this sculpture are going to help inspire us in our artwork. So look closely at this sculpture. This is a statue called the bust of Nefertiti. And I want you to memorize that so that we can review it whenever I come back on a video or see you in class. All right? So when I hold this up, I want you to be able to say, bust of Queen Nefertiti. Ready? Let's try it. Ahem. The bust of Queen Nefertiti. You'll notice that there are some beautiful lines. Do you see some very nice lines in her headdress? Look at the design there. Do you see the vertical lines and the pattern of the colors? Take a look at her necklace. Wow, look at all the pattern that you see there. There's all sorts of different patterns that we could be inspired by. We might even want to put some of those patterns on the ornate cat that we are painting. So look at it again and see if you could be inspired by that. I'm going to show you a short little video about this sculpture and the museum that it's in. Take a look.
We're in the Neues Museum in Berlin, and we're looking at the famous bust of Nefertiti. It is a life-size, full-color image, and it's really impressive.
It's the treasure of this museum, and it's been placed in a rotunda with a large dome. She's been placed slightly higher than eye level, so we look up at her. She's fabulously beautiful.
She's virtually the sole work of art in this very large space. Clearly, she is the focal point.
Yeah, it's quite theatrical. And unlike so many other Egyptian sculptures, she wasn't intended for a tomb. She was found in the studio of the artist who made her, Thutmose.
We think that this sculpture was actually a model that he had created in order to work on other sculptures of her. That is, this sculpture would function really as a three-dimensional sketch.
As a prototype.
That's right.
Art historians have discovered through scientific analysis that she's made not just of painted limestone, but limestone that's been covered with a very, very thin layer of plaster, and that enabled the sculptor to achieve really subtle effects modeling her face.
But in the neck and the headdress, plaster gets much thicker, and it would have been much easier to work and create that very fine detail on the plaster rather than the coarser material of the limestone core.
And that's so important where we see the lines, very subtle movement around her cheeks. What's so remarkable about the sculpture is how sensitively carved she is, how we really get a sense of skin and bone and these lovely movements around her face.
She's tremendously elegant, but even beyond the simple elegance of the contours of her face, her high cheekbones, the shallow of her cheeks,
her long neck,
beautiful symmetry, a way in which line is unified throughout the entire portrait bust. For instance, follow the lines downward that are constructed by the contours of her headdress. It tapers as it moves towards her chin, so her face and headdress create a perfect triangle. But that's actually continued by the lines of her neck below her chin, and it's accentuated by the lighting in this museum. But it really does create this sense of continuity from the top of the sculpture to its base.
what we're describing is a new ideal of beauty that's really different from the tradition of ancient Egyptian sculpture. And that's because Nefertiti was the wife of the pharaoh Akhenaten, who established a new religion in ancient Egypt, which was monotheistic instead of the traditional polytheistic religion. And with that, he created a new ideal of beauty that we see in the sculptures that were created during his reign.
That's right. I think we see this sculpture really as a perfect exemplar. Nefertiti is especially interesting because we believe she did not simply function as the wife of the pharaoh. She is shown in so many portraits with the accoutrements of the ruler that we think that she actually shared power.
It's interesting, this period that we call the Amarna period of Akhenaten's reign, where we have two powerful women, his mother Tiye and his wife Nefertiti.
Both represented as beautiful women, as powerful women, and giving us a kind of insight into late Egyptian culture.
So, one more time, what is the name of this sculpture? The bust of Queen Nefertiti. All right, now do you remember the one that I taught you last week? It had the head of a man, a pharaoh, and the body of a cat. It was gigantic. Do you remember what it was called? The Sphinx. So, we will continue learning about Egyptian art and we will continue being inspired by it. So I will see you in class, or I will see you on the video for how to do the next step in our project. All right, thanks for checking in.